everyone. There is something strange that we're going to do during the 2 days upcoming of Rosh Hashanah, and that is to interrupt our public AMIDAH. Usually the public AMIDAH has a form. There's a chazan, he leads us, he's supposed to elevate us all, and we're all supposed to daven along with him by saying Amen, by singing along and whatnot. But yet on Rosh Hashanah, we do one thing we don't do all year, and that is we interrupt the service by actually blowing shofar at the end of the 3 added blessings for Rosh Hashanah, at the end of Malchiyot, Zichronot, and Shofarot. And indeed, it seems a little strange if on Sukkot you would say, in the middle of the AMIDAH, today is Sukkot, I'm going to go home, I'm going to eat a meal, and I'm going to come back and continue the AMIDAH. Everyone would agree that's a hefsek, that's an interruption, and you have to start the AMIDAH over. And yet, on Rosh Hashanah, it is considered part and parcel of the davening. How is that possible? It seems like the answer has to be that it's not an interruption, but rather it enhances the davening. Rosh Hashanah is called a day called Yom Teruah. That's the way we refer to it in the davening, as we say, Vatiten Lanu, etc., et Yom HaZikaron Hazeh, Yom Teruah Mikra Kodesh, a day of Teruah. It is one of the only times that I know of in our Talmud that indeed the Gemara quotes Targum Onkelos, who says in Aramaic that the word Teruah means, and I quote, Yom Yevava Yeheh Lechon, a day of crying it shall be to you. What does it mean, a day of crying? Rosh Hashanah is a day that's a yontiv. It's a day of yontiv that we're obligated to eat meals. It actually stops any pre-existing mourning, and therefore, how can it be a total day of crying? Explains Rav Hershel Shechter that this probably refers to a famous Gemara. The Gemara says in Beseches Brachos Daf Lamed Bet Amud Bet that from the time of the destruction of the temple, Ninalu Sha'arei Tfilah, that the tefillot are not accepted the way they used to be. However, says the Gemara, Sha'arei Tfilah Ninalu, but Sha'arei Dim'ah lo Ninalu. The gates of tears have not been locked like the gates of prayer. In essence, on Rosh Hashanah, what we try to do is elevate our davening from a level of tefillah to a level of dima, from a level of just a prayer to an enhancement of a prayer that's called a prayer of tears. And a person only cries in one of two situations, when they're extremely happy or we're then extremely sad. You don't just cry for the sake of crying. In other words, on Rosh Hashanah, our davening has to be one of sincerity. And this will explain many of the halachos that govern the davening of Rosh Hashanah with the tkiyot, with the shofar blowing. Because if the shofar blowing is a form of prayer, then you can understand many different Gemaras. For example, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Daf Tetzayin Amud Aleph says that God says to the Jewish people, Imru lifanai b'Rosh Hashanah malchiyot zichronot v'shofarot. You have to say those 3 added blessings. And then the Gemara says, Uvameh, and how? B'shofar, with the shofar. If you would have asked me, God says to say before me, Malchiyot, Zichronot, V'shofarot, you're supposed to say it with your mouth. But no, says the Gemara, it's incomplete with your mouth only. You have to add the shofar blowing to elevate it from just a prayer to a prayer of sincerity of tears. More than that, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah has a debate. What shape should the shofar be? Should it be kafuf, twisted, or pashut, straight? And the Gemara basically says, B'maka mifligi, what's the machlokes? The machlokes is not what shape of a shofar is better, but rather what form of standing before God in prayer is better. Mar savar b'Rosh Hashanah kama dekayif inish da'atei tfei ma'alei. One of the rabbis of the Talmud said, the more you bow before God and you look, a little twisted, a little bowed over, that's the way you should stand before God. Umar Savar, and the other point of view, says, no, kama de pashat inish ta'atei tfei alei. It's better to be straight before God. Whatever it might be, straight or bent. The machloket is, what is the better way to pray? But I remind you, we're not talking about the person standing in prayer. We're talking about the shape of the shofar. In other words, the Talmud assumes that the shofar is a form of prayer, a prayer of sincerity, a prayer of tears. Indeed, when the Gemara talks about the fact that you blow shofar in a series of 3, namely it's always tekiah, a middle sound of shvarim trua or shvarim trua, what's called shalosh shel shalosh shalosh, explains Rashi, echad lemalchiot, echad lezichronot, ve'echad leshofarot. What does one have to do with the other? Malchiot, zichronot, ve'shofarot are prayers we say in the machzer, and here we're talking about the shofar blowing. The answer is, it combines into one. Namely, shofar blowing is a form of davening. But how can that be? The answer is, there are prayers that we say with our mouth. We ask for this, we ask for that, and that's what we're going to do on Rosh Hashanah. But there's also another prayer, and that is to say, God, I don't know what's right for the Jewish people. I can go this way, I can go that way. Do what's right for the Jewish people. I put it in your hands. I would say that the words we say is the prayer of, I need this, I need that. The shofar blowing is basically saying, God, I put my hands up. Should we indeed free all the hostages and pay any price? Or maybe not, because if we do that, we're opening the door to future attacks. I don't know what to do. God, I'm putting it in your hands. Put the wisdom in our hearts to know what to do. Maybe that's how we started this whole Slichos period, when we started with the Pizmon of Lishmoa El Havrina Ve'el HaTfilah. My great Rebbe, Rav Amital Zecher Tzadik Livracha, explained, Tfilah means, Bakasha means request, things that we ask for, things that we're sure about. But Rina doesn't mean that. If you look into Tehillim, Perek Kof Mem Bet 142, that starts with Maskila David B'hiyoto B'me'arat Tefillah. David was in that cave, Shaul is on the other side, and he doesn't know what to do. If he's going to kill Shaul, he's killing the king of Israel. If he doesn't kill Shaul, maybe Shaul will kill him. He doesn't know what to do, and he screams out to God, Hakshiba el rinati, ki daloti me'od. Listen to my rina, because I am indeed in dire straits. When we stand before God this Rosh Hashanah, we're going to enhance our davening by creating a Yom Teruah. We're going to use our words to the extent possible. And then we're going to say, God, whatever our words can't cover, because we don't know the right answer, we need you, God. We throw our hands to you in the sincerity of the shofar, saying, we don't know the words. We're throwing our tefillah up to you, say, God, do what's right for the Jewish people. Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope and pray that God will listen to our prayers. As indeed we say at the end of Shofarot, Shomea, listen, God who listens to Kol Truat Amo Yisrael Berachamim. The sincere prayer enhanced with tears, with mercy. May it be God's will for this coming year.
Maminim, shehi toy